That's a great explanation. Thank you. And I'm going to follow that question up with, can you essentially give a brief history of the Toda protocol?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. So Tufi and I were building a lot of applications 3 and 4 years ago that were in the security and privacy space. So secure encrypted email, secure two-way chat using WebRTC, kind of like we're doing right now. And so as we were building these companies, we were trying to find ways to reduce the trust barriers between our users, but also between the users and our companies. We wanted to find ways to make it, to allow people to verify the claims that we were making about our security and how secure they were while they were using our protocols and our applications, rather than simply saying, here's what we're doing and you need to trust us. We wanted to be able to say, here's what we're doing and you can validate this. So we started making use of various kinds of blockchain technology, particularly Ethereum, in the system design, precisely in those places where there was a lack of trust that could be solved by introducing that. And we could start to lower those trust barriers and allow people to do more validation. What we ran into over and over again with these applications were issues as we started to scale up from the proof of concept stage. We ran into issues with transaction throughput. So how many transactions can you do in a given amount of time, with latency? So how long does it take for a particular transaction to actually be resolved? And with cost. So how much does it cost per transaction? And looking ahead, we realized that those were not issues that were going to go away. And so Toda really comes from a place of trying to understand how we can do, at the beginning it was just value transfer. How can we do value transfer in a way that solves those three problems? And the fundamental insight was that you cannot solve those problems with a ledger. If we think of an abstract global public ledger, you are always stuck with those problems, because the nature of a global public ledger is to write things into it that can be read by everyone for all time. And if that's the case, those are going to be inherently expensive. There's no way around that. You're also going to have only a certain amount of room that you can do that in. And you're probably going to run into some latency issues there too. So all three of those problems end up being essentially unsolvable, or at least some combination of those three problems are unsolvable in an abstract global public ledger that's really trying to fulfill that mission. They're very useful things, these global public ledgers, but they are not useful for buying a cup of coffee or tapping your Presto card to get on the subway. They don't work that way. So building a decentralized value exchange mechanism that didn't make use of a ledger was kind of the key first step, and then expanding it from value exchange to real true ownership management and kind of the fullest sense of that was the iteration. And along the way, we actually managed to simplify things quite a bit by abstracting it a little bit more. So that was a nice step. I know we're hitting our 3-minute barrier, but I think it's important to say that another aspect of the DNA of Toda from the very beginning has been looking at cash primary regional economies and trying to understand how we could supplement cash in those regional economies on mobile devices in a way that had similar scaling properties to cash, in a way that had a similar story around privacy to cash, in a way that had a similar story around latency to cash, but most importantly, in a way that didn't deplete value from those regional economies. So if you look at essentially any other electronic payment system in the world, it's going to deplete value from a cash primary regional economy, either by transaction fees. So if we look at Visa, you've got 2 or 3% on every exchange, on every transaction that is coming out of that regional economy and getting concentrated somewhere else in the world. The same thing happens with Bitcoin or Ethereum. If you don't have a huge mining presence in that region, then you've got transaction fees that are being paid outside of that. But additionally, with cryptocurrencies, you have a secondary effect, which is that new currency is being minted, being mined, somewhere in the world, and it's probably not where you are. So cash has many great properties. It doesn't deplete value from regional economies, maybe chief among them. But it also has a bunch of problems. If you have a lot of it and there's no brick and mortar bank nearby, what do you do with it? How do you get a low interest loan? How do you get insurance? How do you send it to somebody else across the world? If we can start to supplement cash with a value exchange mechanism that runs on mobile devices and doesn't deplete value from those regional economies, then we can offer financial services, for example, on that platform. We can offer all kinds of things on that platform and start to provide the tools for financial prosperity in a way that we can't currently, because cash doesn't allow you to do that. But we can't get rid of cash right now because there's no system out there that's currently available that doesn't deplete value from these regional economies. So that's inherent in the design of Toda. It's really one of its founding principles. And a lot of the hard trade-offs that we've made have been around this idea that we are creating a system that keeps value as you perform transactions and doesn't deplete that. There you go.
Oh, thank you for the explanation. And thank you for the interview today, Dan.
My pleasure.